The fact that this is a real manga panel that released today in Chainsaw Man chapter 166 and then followed up with these panels in the exact same chapter, what a wild time to be a Chainsaw Man fan. Now, all day today, I have seen discourse with this chapter. People saying that Denji is circling back around to his old habits and doing things that he did in part 1 of Chainsaw Man, basically saying that he has effectively gotten no character development. This is the discourse I have seen all day today. And I want to take a few moments to really just honestly overanalyze this chapter of Chainsaw Man and discuss what Fujimoto is cooking up and if it actually is absolute cinema that we currently have on display. So let's just start with this page, which I think is very important to really just kind of lay the groundwork for what I'm going to talk about, and that is this page and panels following is Denji considering if the reason why he's depressed, the reason why he is sad, the reason why, he is acting like he is it because he hasn't had any form of sexual release. That is literally his thought process. And throughout this entire page, you see him processing this, he's thinking about it, he's hyping himself up about it, and he realizes the advice that Katana Devil is trying to give him is not the right advice. It's very apparent by just how long it takes him to come to the consideration of, like, maybe that's what I need. But that is obviously not what he needed. And when he asked this question, at first glance, people that are taking it as face value and not really wanting to analyze what this means, they're gonna laugh at it. It's like, wow, what a modern problem, so to speak, is what some would probably say to this. But the thing is that Denji represents that he doesn't understand how he feels. He doesn't understand human emotion. For instance, he doesn't know how to process, like, his depression and just how he is feeling about everything going on around him. Because we gotta remember, everything that happened prior to this chapter, okay, Denji has lost his family, aka Nayuta. He has lost his pets, like Meowie. He has lost his home. He's lost his fame. He's lost the reason to really be Chainsaw Man. He has effectively nothing at this moment. He's starting from zero, which is really bad, because one of the big highlights of the last chapter of Chainsaw Man was Denji basically saying that no matter how you try to go back to normal or how the way things were, it never will be. And this is a perfect representation of that. No matter how Denji wants to return back to a certain time period to go back to how things were, he's lost things. They're gone. They're up in ashes now. They're not coming back. And that is what it represents. And so the thing is he doesn't know how to process grief. He doesn't know how to process trauma. He doesn't know how to process emotion. And that is what the chapter does. He thinks the answer to processing his grief is for some form of sexual satisfaction. That is literally what he thinks his, actual emotion should be, how to settle this depression. But it's clearly not the case, because as things slowly start to wind down and we get a little bit more dramatic towards the end, you see Denji start to blame his overall active drive, his sex drive, for the reasons why things have just went wrong in his life. Why he's lost his family, why he's lost his fame. Everything kind of stems back around to one of his main objectives. Like, we gotta remember, back in part 1 of Chainsaw Man, literally his objective was to pretty much get a hold of Opie from power. That's literally what he wanted. And obviously there was a lot more nuance to that, a lot more themes and messages to why he wanted that, and I'll go over that in a moment. But the point is that Denji thinks to himself that it's his overwhelming horny nature why he is in all these situations, and he starts to become very disgusted with himself. It's like, it's not funny, he's crying, and obviously Asa slash Yoru, intervenes, and this is definitely not the answer. I'll talk about this as well in a moment, but it doesn't change the fact that Denji is traumatized. Anything dealing with, let's say, 18 plus type of content is just trauma for Denji. He doesn't know what he wants, because he feels like what he wants is like maybe something on the horny degree, but in reality he wants love, he wants care, he wants attention. He is literally the meme of, like, when you see that meme of like a dude laying in a woman's lap, like he's laying his head on a woman's lap, and that's all a guy really wants. That's pretty much what Denji is. Like, he doesn't understand that. He believes that he just wants release, but he actually wants love and security. He wants to feel secure, he wants to feel love, and he wants to feel like he is safe with somebody, because every interaction that he has had throughout his life has just ended up in misery and manipulation. every time he gets any form of romantic feelings for someone. Makima is a very good example, and I think this brings up something that I need to segue into as well now, is that we know Denji's past and just how traumatic it was. He was a boy that had a really awful father figure that was a drunk. He drank so much, and it's very clear, thanks to what we found out, Denji took him out. He ended his father because he was done with him. He defended himself in self-defense. We don't know necessarily the whole extent of what Denji did, but it's very clear that he was frightened by his father, emotionally and physically abused, and he defended himself, and obviously Denji became alone in that moment. And the household that Denji has always had, he's been living in, for instance, throughout his early ages, has been rocky. It hasn't been secure. At a moment at the beginning of part 1 of Chainsaw Man, he got with Power and Aki. He had a little bit of a brief, home, so to speak. But obviously he has lost that as well. And so every time he gets a home, every time he gets a family, he just loses it, and he just does not have security. And that's one of the big things that he clearly does want as an individual. And so seeing these things that continuously, build up throughout Denji's character, it makes sense why he acts like the way he does. He just wants love. He just wants to be secure, but he doesn't know how to process this, and this chapter really showcases Denji's inner thoughts and just how he is as a person. Now, I want to dive a little bit deeper into this page and talk about why this is so significant. These panels, these brief little panels showcasing Denji's expressions of, contemplating if the answer really is just releasing, certain, giving himself pleasure, so to speak. Well, the thing is that Denji, he knows it's wrong, he knows it isn't the answer, but he wants to try, which, as I talked about, is because he doesn't know how to process his emotions. But secondly, on top of that, he as an individual, has went through this issue in the past, in part 1 of Chainsaw Man. People have said that he's circling around the exact same drama or character issues that he's had since part 1 of Chainsaw Man. But that's the thing about humans, and you need to understand what Fujimoto is cooking up here, is that at the end of the day, Denji, he is fighting between his human side and his Chainsaw Man side. What side is more important to him? He is both, so to speak. He's finding himself. And at the same time, humans, as species, we are not perfect. We make a lot of mistakes. It's kind of like this. Denji, has old bad habits. He's tried to break those bad habits. But when temptation comes before you, you might go back to those old habits. It's kind of like an alcoholic, someone that, stops drinking alcohol for a while, they go, sober for 5-10 years, and then someone comes up and they try to tempt them with, a taste of alcohol, so to speak, they might fall back into those old habits. And in this case, that's what's happening with Denji, is that he is being tempted. He did get tempted for a bit, obviously it didn't work out right, and he realized that that temptation was not the answer. And so, I really love what Fujimoto-sensei is doing in these latest chapters of Chainsaw Man. It's like, for one, he's showcasing the ability for readers to read in between the lines. Like, for instance, people that are able to look at these panels, read in between the lines, analyze the chapter, are going to come out feeling rewarded and love Chainsaw Man. But those that just skim through the chapter, they're going from page to page, just reading the lines, laughing at the lines, and then you have the scene where he's literally, it's not funny, really just displays kind of what Fujimoto is trying to say. This content is not funny. It's not supposed to be funny. It might be funny to a degree, but in reality, it is traumatizing. It's traumatic. It's not supposed to be look what he said that and all that. And it's really sad. I think that's the big point of this, is that Fujimoto was, for one, calling out his audience, or the readers. He was calling out people that are not able to understand the actual emotional trauma that Denji's going through, but he's also showcasing just how Denji is he almost fell back in old habits, and the one person that potentially could fix him and actually allow him to grow as a person actually could be Yoru/Asa. So let's talk about that for a second. So, once again, I want to reinstate that Denji himself even says it's not funny. His situation is not funny. And obviously, Yoru coming out of Asa's body. It's like, oh, that's your problem? Let me cut it off for you. It sounds so funny and over the top, and obviously Yoru would definitely say this type of content, but the thing is that she's like, fine, if that really is your problem, and you think that is the answer to correcting your problems, then let's get rid of it. And so Yoru's just taking things at face value, and just not really trying to read in between the lines of what Denji is trying to say, and how he's trying to get out his emotions. Like I said, he doesn't understand. He doesn't know how to process his emotions. But what Yoru/Asa is hearing, or at least mainly Yoru, is just everything at face value. It's like, oh, so that's your problem, let's get rid of it then. But obviously, there's more to it than that. What Denji needs is a hug, he needs love, etc. So I do wonder where, Fujimoto is going to take this, because obviously I feel like this is building up to potentially an intimate moment between Asa, Yoru, and Denji, which is pretty exciting because it might lead to Denji actually finally getting what he wants. But the last time we saw Denji really hooking up with someone and having an emotional connection with them, they died. Like, they straight up died. So, thinking about that, it's a little bit worrisome just seeing the way these chapters are going, because obviously Fujimoto is known for kind of, just playing with your feelings and then just getting rid of a character, so let's hope that does not happen. But I have faith that Fujimoto will do it in a way, if he does theoretically get rid of, let's say, Asa/Yoru in some degree, he would do it in a way that's tasteful and would fit the narrative and plot, but I still would hate to lose the character. Anyways, circling back around to what I said, I think that overall, this chapter, Chainsaw Man, is kind of like a filter as well. I think that it's filtering out those that are not able to truly appreciate the writing style that Fujimoto has to offer. People are, I think, spoiled by how most people that got into Chainsaw Man binged it. Like, I want to talk about that, actually. I think this is something I need to say before wrapping up the video, is that most people that got into Chainsaw Man, and let's just be blunt, because I admit I was the same way, I got into Chainsaw Man basically at its height of the manga. Not with the anime, but at the manga. When it was literally the final chapters are coming out. Like, there was like 3 chapters or so left when I caught up with the manga. And I remember doing like a live stream of it. I posted on YouTube and on Twitch. And I remember talking about the chapters. I binged the series, basically, in just like a day or two. And most people, I think, that get into Chainsaw Man, they binge the story. And in a way, that's fine. It's fine to binge content. But I think that people that, binged Chainsaw Man, such as myself, I'm including myself into this category, got a little bit spoiled by just all of the content, all the build-up, all the emotional, weight and build-up and payoff that the series provided, that, they're not used to the slow-cooking week-by-week manner, because they were so used to, a full binge read, because most people that caught up to Chainsaw Man was just people that found it and finished all part 1, just for part 2 to come out. So in this case, I feel like a lot of people that have problems with part 2 of Chainsaw Man are those that binged the series, quick sped read it, got emotionally invested maybe in the fights to certain characters from part 1, and are not letting Fujimoto take time to cook what he's doing in these chapters, because it's telling a very different type of story than part 1 was. This story of part 2 is a story about character driven. Like, it's a character-driven story. It's not about just, like, Denji seeking a new or grand goal. It's more of him finding out what it means to be a human being and all this in his point of life. Like, what does it actually mean? What does his emotions mean? It's not about him getting into his next fight with a greater devil, etc. It's about him finding himself. So, I feel like a lot of things that's been happening as of late have really filtered people from the series, which I think is fine, because I feel like, Fujimoto's probably purposely doing that, trying to get the audience that actually understands his material, but I'll leave it at that. I'm going to end the video here. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy my content and you want more Chainsaw Man videos or other videos in the future, do let me know in the comments below, and be safe, stay healthy, love you guys, Chibi out.